I have every single gun in Roblox Rivals, and today I'm going to be ranking them from worst to best. So I have 4 tiers today. Starting off at the lowest, I have the poop tier. Second to lowest is the usable tier. Next up is the good tier, and then at the top we have the goated tier. So stick around until the end to make sure what the best gun is in the game, or I guess the best several guns. And before we get started, of course, I'm doing a classic bundle giveaway at 30,000 subscribers. We're getting really close. All you have to do is comment your Roblox username, subscribe, like, and watch until the end. And once you do that, I'll add you to the list to be added to the giveaway. Without further ado, let's get on with this ranking. Starting out with the poop tier. So this is a little bit of a controversial one, but in my opinion, the worst gun in the game right now currently is probably the RPG. Now, I know, stop throwing your tomatoes, okay? I just really don't think the RPG is all that good, because to do any reliable damage, you have to hit them directly with the rocket. It's just kind of hard to do that, especially with people that move around a lot. I know that the RPG itself is pretty good for movement, but it's like, there's a lot better options out there that, you know, actually give you some actual damage, like the bow, for example. You can double jump with that and actually hit people with your shots. So I just don't really see a reason to have the RPG high at all. Now, second to last is the grenade launcher. I think the grenade launcher is a step up from the RPG, but again, it's really not the best gun in the game. That's why a lot of people, they intentionally grind out their grenade launcher AFK just so they don't have to actually use the gun for 24 hours to unlock the glass skin. But again, grenade launcher is good for movement, but still, there's definitely better options out there. And again, put your tomatoes away. Don't throw tomatoes at me. But the third gun in the poop tier and the last gun in the poop tier is the flare gun. Now, I find the flare gun annoying personally, but that doesn't really make it a good gun at all. You only get 2 shots, and I'd much rather have a gun that actually deals some decent DPS rather than just shooting a flare in one spot. I mean, it's pretty easy to avoid, so that's why the flare gun is the third gun in the poop tier. And before we do move on, I will add, all of these are my personal opinion. So if you have different opinions, then let me know your own lists in the comments below. I think it'll be interesting to read those. But moving on to the next tier, we have the usable tier. So these are guns that are, you know, they're usable. They're not horrible, but there's definitely better guns out there. And coming up, we have what I used to think was the worst gun in the game, but they've actually buffed it a lot, is the Gunblade. Now this gun, it does have a pretty good dash ability. I will give it that. I think it does like, what, 50 damage per shot, but after you shoot somebody, you have to hit them with your blade. So overall, the gun's not too bad. I know they did some changes to it, made it a lot better, but it's not personally a gun that I would really go out of my way to use. I think there's better guns out there, and there's most certainly definitely better primaries out there. It's just, it's alright. Next up, we have the handgun. I know this gun also got a pretty good buff in the most recent update, and I think the handgun it's a somewhat reliable secondary. There's better secondaries out there, but overall the handgun's not too bad. There's guns that do better DPS, and there's guns that do worse DPS, so that's kind of why I placed it here. And next up, again, this is personal opinions, we have the energy rifle. I know the energy rifle is pretty useful on like arena, how you can like kind of shoot somebody directly from your spawn to theirs, which that's good if you know how to do it, and if the other person doesn't use the riot shield or the katana. I mean, it's pretty easy to counter the energy rifle, and once you know, if you don't hit that initial like crazy shot on arena, then I mean, you're kind of just done for, because it doesn't really do the best DPS. So as an actual gun, it's usable, but it's not great. There's definitely better options. Next up, we have the XO gun. Now the XO gun, I think it's pretty good. There's better secondaries out there, but for what it is, it's pretty good. It deals splash damage, so this can also actually be used pretty well on like 2v2s or 3v3s. So you can do splash damage, you can, you know, damage multiple people. But even with the splash damage, I think the damage is still relatively low. Like, you'd probably be better off just using like the revolver or the Uzi or something like that. But the reload's also pretty fast, which I like, but you also don't get too much ammo on this thing. It's just kind of, it's good. It's just kind of whatever. But this is also pretty good for like riot shields and katanas, because this can go through both of them, which is actually pretty nice. And next up, we have the burst rifle. This is the top of the usable tier. So the burst rifle, it's pretty good. I'm not really a fan of burst guns just in general, but the burst rifle does do pretty good damage, especially if you hit your headshots. I just prefer automatic guns over burst guns, and I think this thing gets kind of outshined by like the paintball gun or the assault rifle in my opinion. And I also just don't really see it get used all that much anymore, especially after its prime, because it got nerfed like several updates back and it hasn't really been the same. Moving up to the next tier, we are now in the good tier. These are some pretty good guns, you know, they're not the best, but they're definitely up there. They're definitely some of the better guns in the game. Coming at the bottom of the good tier, this gun would have, well, it's not really a gun, but it would have placed higher before this update, and that's the daggers. Now, the daggers, they're a pretty good secondary. You can double jump with them and whatnot, but I think you used to get like plus 15 movement speed, but now it's plus 5. So since the movements got nerfed on this quite a bit, the double jump is still nice, but it's not as quick. Like, I think even the flare gun has faster movement speed than the daggers. I get it, the daggers were pretty good, and I guess they kind of needed a nerf, but kind of not at the same time. But I mean, they're a good secondary, but there's better out there, so that's why it's kind of at the bottom of the good tier here. Moving up one more spot, we have the energy pistols, which again, this is probably a controversial opinion, but I think that energy pistols are really, really good. And I know the energy pistols has pretty low damage. It does like, what, 2 damage to the body or something like that. But if you think about it, it's really not that bad at all because it has unlimited ammo, so you could literally like shoot them as much as you want and not have to reload. So like if you have a primary with like pretty low reserve ammo or, you know, a lower magazine count, then you can actually use the energy pistols to just spray the crap out of them. And this has helped me a lot with people like trying to hide in corners. I can literally just pre-fire them as much as I want. So the energy pistols, while not doing too much damage, are actually pretty good strategically for mini matches. It's just the unlimited ammo, man. It's just, it's OP. Next up, we have the spray. This would originally be in like probably the poop tier, but the spray got buffed so much in this most recent update. And honestly, I think the spray is one of the best secondaries in the game at this moment. And that's kind of because, you know, it goes through riot shields and katanas, and the damage isn't horrible. But especially when someone's just kind of hiding in the corner with a riot shield, they're not expecting you to whip out the spray and just like completely destroy them. So usually the burst and the somewhat lower damage doesn't really matter anyway, because the person with the riot shield is literally just standing still. So that's why I like the spray. Moving up one more spot, we have the crossbow. This is an extremely underrated gun in my opinion. And the reason being is because it's kind of like the sniper in a way. I know it does, I think it does 75 to the head, so you can like 3-shot people to the head, and it does like it does really good at like long range. I think this is a better option for people that aren't really as good with the sniper to have a good long range option. For, you know, people like me that, you know, their first shot accuracy isn't very good and you just kind of suck at sniping, this is a very good alternative. Next up, we have the bow. The bow is super good. I really like the movement on it, and of course you do more damage if you charge it up. It is kind of harder to hit your shots though, because it's a projectile based weapon rather than, you know, most guns you can just like click at their head. You kind of have to aim forward a little bit to be able to hit your shots with the bow. But the hitboxes are also extended on the bow, I'm pretty sure, so that's nice. Next up, at the top of the good tier, we have the flamethrower. I know they changed the way that the flame mechanic works recently, so the flamethrower is not as good as it was. It would originally be in the goated tier, but it's kind of dropped off a little bit. But the flamethrower is still really good if you can get into a close range situation. It's also pretty good for movement because of its air boost ability. And I think the flamethrower is pretty good. Moving up to the goated tier. These are the best guns in the entire game, and this is the biggest tier. So strap in and watch until the end. Coming in at the bottom of the goated tier, we have the Uzi. This is a super good secondary. I think it's really good. It mainly gets outclassed by like 2 more secondaries that we'll get to later in this tier. But it's an automatic secondary, so it pairs well with like the assault rifle if you run out of ammo. It's really nice. Next up, we have the shotgun. I like the shotgun a lot. It's pretty fun. It does big damage at close range, so this gun works really well on like arena or playground. Next up, we have the slingshot. This would have been like the second best gun in the game in my opinion, but after its most recent damage nerf, I think the slingshot is still one of the best secondaries in the game and overall one of the best guns in the game, but it's just not as good as it once was. Especially for more open maps, it just doesn't work as well, but it's still really good regardless. Next up, we have the sniper. Now, if you're wondering why this wasn't placed higher, it's because, well, not everybody's good at sniper. Like me, for instance, I can't hit my shots with this thing. But if you can, it is super OP because it does It's a one shot to the head. I mean, come on. But if you can hit your headshots, this is definitely probably the best gun in the game technically. But like I said, not everybody can really hit their shots. Next up, this gun has rose the ranks really nicely in the most recent update. This is the paintball gun. Now the reason the paintball gun is so high is because it got reworked recently. It does slightly more damage and it actually has more ammo in a magazine. Now it does have less reserve, so you can only reload once. Yeah, instead of having 16 bullets, you now have 24. So in a way, it's kind of like an assault rifle, but with more bullets. And that's what I do like about the paintball gun. I think it actually does less damage than the assault rifle, but it's still kind of close. And I think the paintball gun's extremely reliable. So if you have this thing, definitely use it a little bit more. Next up, we have my personal favorite gun in the entire game, the minigun. Now the minigun, I mean, you can absolutely completely shred people with this thing. It shoots so fast. The damage isn't the best in the world, but it's still... I think it's the fastest fire rate gun in the game. So I mean, literally, you can aim at somebody, you click, and like 1 or 2 seconds later, boom, they're dead. This thing can kill super fast, and I love it. It also has lots of ammo, has like 300 bullets, I think. Next up, we have, in my opinion, the best secondary in the game, the revolver. I mean, I don't really know what to say about this thing. It has 6 bullets. It does really high damage, especially to the head. And it pairs really well overall with any of the guns in the game, to be honest. And of course, the moment you've all been waiting for, the #1 best gun in the game. And as you probably expected, it's the assault rifle. Subscribe for more Rivals content just like this, and comment your username to join the Classic Bundle giveaway.